She was brought to Wisconsin to a pig farm. And that's where she was until she escaped. And she worked and was sexually abused until she escaped. So that is fraud. Okay, coercion. Now that's a lot of different things. Coercion is where, let's say there's a young woman from Asia, and she is told, your family will be brought shame upon if you don't do what I tell you to do, I will call your family and your whole village will never accept you again because I will tell them that you are a bad person. Or that's coercion. Or we had a girl who was told that if she didn't do what they told her to do, they were going to do that to her two younger sisters. So that's coercion. There's a lot of different types of coercion. So these are the things we prove, and that's one of the things we do, is we do the legal part. That's why I have to be an attorney, so that we can do legal stuff. We do the immigration law work, and we do the coordination with Office of Homeland Security, so that the case is investigated, the person is to stay here, get the care that they need to be healthy, to feel good, to feel secure, and to be able to testify against the trafficker. Absolutely essential if we're going to get rid of them, or tone them down at least a bit, because you've got to prosecute them. So that's the first fraud and coercion. Okay, so they don't speak English, they have other cultures, they don't live in one place. The traffickers move them around to make sure they're disorientated. They threaten them. And with children, they get what's called Stockholm Syndrome. Anyone know what that is? Great. Going to tell us?
It's when the victim starts to sympathize with their captor, and they start to see things from their point of view, and dependent on them for comfort and everything.
Right, and it's just a natural thing for children to do that. So children particularly are vulnerable to this. There was an 8-year-old child kept in a cage in Minnesota until she was 8. And then when they freed her, she said, "Oh, I love my captor. He is so good to me. He gives me food. He keeps me safe in this cage. He is the one that's keeping me safe from all the horrible people in the outside. And he is, he is my savior, and I want to be with him." Okay, that's a child's mind. And so we have to understand that when we're listening to children, and they lie. That is a symptom of human trafficking. When you hear something that sounds kind of, I don't know, that sounds kind of weird, they're lying. That's normal. They're a child. That's a symptom. Don't hate them because of it. So just some little pointers on what you might see when you're coming up to a situation where there might be some trafficking or things that are going on that are making someone vulnerable. Okay, so then they coach the victim as well. They tell them what to say. Okay, so we had a little girl. She was 14. She was Latino. Her mother, she spoke English, but her mother spoke Spanish. And because they were poor, they had unrelated people taking rooms out in their home, in their apartment. And so the little girl got raped, and the mother figured it out. She called the police, and the rapist told the little girl, you know, I am going to get your family deported, every last one of them, in jail and deported, if you tell them anything. So she said to the police, I love him, he's my boyfriend, and the reason I'm bleeding is because I started my period. So then the police went away. Didn't matter that she was 14 and the guy was in his 20s. But then she was at church with her mother. Her mother was inside, she was waiting for her outside on the sidewalk. The people came along, and the same guy with a bunch of other guys came along and picked her up off the street and whizzed her off in a car. And then the mother ran out and talked to people on the sidewalk and figured out who it was. And so she called the police again, of course in Spanish, and said, you know, where the child probably was. So the police go, and they knock on the door, and they say, give us the girl. So now, because the girl had lied before, they didn't think very much of it. They just thought they were going to charge her with runaway. So fortunately, the mother got to us. We called the county attorney. The county attorney has said, no way, she's not being charged with runaway. We're going to go get those guys. And they did. They got the guys, and they made them plead guilty. So it turned out okay, but this is the result of not understanding that children lie. All right, here's where the victims that we have in this period of time, where they came from. So it's just amazing, the different countries. Can you all see it clearly? Well, let me see if I can read some of them here. Okay, just starting down at the bottom there, the largest is Russia. The second largest, the yellow there, is Vietnamese. Then there's a lot of Somali, that's the blue. And Mexico is the gold. And then if I just read along the top there, starting with Bangladesh, Bolivia, Cambodia, Cameroon, Canada. We just got a new one from Canada. An American Indian from Canada, actually. Chad, China, a lot from China. Colombia, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Egypt, England, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Fiji, Ghana, Guyana, Haiti, Honduras, and on and on and on. So from the whole world, we're getting people. And this strains our resources because we have to be able to have interpreters for all these different people. But it's wonderful to get to know these wonderful groups of people from all over the world. Okay, this is a map of Minnesota, and it is made by the legislature, and it shows the second language of primary school children. So what language do primary school children mostly speak? Yes, right. This is the second language. So if you go all the way up there to Arrowhead, it's Russian. And then the next one is Chinese. And then Hindi. And Russia again, and Ukrainian, Laotian. All the brown is Spanish. Okay, so we have a lot of cultures here. And traffickers know how to use every single culture to their advantage. Rich, poor, from China, from Nigeria, they use every element of the culture to victimize its children. And so that's why it's important for us to realize that we need to respect all of these wonderful ethnicities and to understand that the way that they are victimized is different and their vulnerabilities are used. For instance, in countries where women are not respected as much as men, that vulnerability will be used. So we have people from all over the world in Minnesota. Now, what are some of the other factors that make Minnesota so vulnerable, why we have so many human trafficking victims? Anybody? We're generous, that's a good one. Geography, what about geography? Yes. Why the Great Lakes? Boats, exactly, boats. Boats carry people in and they carry people out. Anything else? More reasons? Okay, we in many ways are very generous. We have the highest adoption rate. But those adoption visas can be used to traffic kids here. Another way our state gets a lot of trafficking victims is we have a very high percentage of refugees here. So we have some wonderful, diverse groups that are here, and because they are here, there's a lot of extra types of people with visas here. And so the visas are used to bring children in. Children don't walk across the border ordinarily, and they do not fly alone. There's someone bringing them. And so there needs to be a visa in many, many cases. You cannot, unless you're Oprah, you can't go to Africa and adopt a child and just bring the child here. You've got to go through a lot of different things to get a child here directly. And so these children are trafficked from country to country. And the one I find the most interesting is we had a child from Togo, and you could never get a child from Togo straight to the United States without paying a lot of money. But that child from Togo was taken to South Africa, and then from South Africa to Australia, then to India, then to England, then to Canada, and then driven across to Minnesota. So that's how we are getting, some of the ways we're getting a lot of children in here that we don't know about. Another thing about Minnesota is a lot of people can be hidden. We kind of are private, aren't we? We think, well, let's leave it alone, we don't know the circumstances. And there's a lot of rivers and cabins and beautiful woods. And, actually, it was a Methodist church that came down from, I went up there to northern Minnesota to a Methodist church to speak. And the Methodist women came to me and said, the guys in town who are the scariest, that the police won't even deal with, that have the most guns and the most knives, and their relatives won't even talk to them or get near them. Those are the guys that are bringing women over from other countries.